Hi folks, and welcome back to another fly tying tutorial. What you see in the vise is Roza's green tag. So without further ado, let's get into it. The hook in the vise is a Hanak H490 barbless hook. This one's at size 14. It's a barbless hook finished in black nickel and it's on a heavy wire. Now the bead that I've coupled it with is a 3mm Hanak silver tungsten bead, and the thread I'm going to be using today is from Simplify at 6/0 and it's the nano silk. Now Luboš Roza, he's a very well known competition fly fisherman, one of the most successful of the era, I might add. Now a lot of people don't like fly fishing and competition said in the same sentence, but I've got to say I'm a big fan of the competition flies, and the reason for that is when these guys go to world championships, European championships or whatever competition, what they need is patterns that are easy to tie, quick to tie and effective for catching fish. If you're a detractor of competition fly fishing or not, it must be said that most of the modern successful patterns do come from the competition world. So we're going to get on and tie Luboš's green tag, and hopefully you'll try it and you'll find some success with it. So first thing, as always with the nano silks, I'm going to get a spot of super glue onto my shank of my hook. I dare say when these boys are tying them up they're using just ordinary thread. But I like the nano silks for these because it gives you a very smooth body. When you turn your bobbin counterclockwise, it flattens out the silk and gives a very smooth body. Now, what I'm using for my green tag, and I dare say you can use various things, is the Simplify floss at 2/0. And it's a nice green colour. Now I'm not going to take any off the reel because I have been tying a few of these up for my own boxes. I've got 2 strands here and I've put them together, and that's going to provide me with my tag. Now I'm not sure about Luboš, but I like to have my tags quite short. Not a big fan of long tags coming out to here. So now I've secured it into place, what I'm going to do is come in and bring my scissors up to the bend of the hook, and then that way I know every fly I tie, my tag's going to be in the right place. The next thing then is to add a rib, silver rib, and I'm using a very thin 0.1mm silver wire, and I have got again a little bit I've been working away with, and I'm just going to catch that in. Now what I'd like to do while tying in this wire is try and get my turns as touching as possible to start tidying up the body, and that's why I'm using the 6/0 really, is so that I can get the coverage fairly quickly. Now I want to try and get a taper into the body, and that will take a couple of seconds just to build that up, and I do hope I've not absolutely obliterated Luboš's name in my pronunciation. I'm sure it's quite difficult to get Roza wrong, but I'm sure somebody will let me know if I've got it wrong. So I've got that nice cigar shape now in the body, and I'm going to bring my wires up, try and keep my turns as even as possible up the body of the fly until I get into the thorax area. Then I can catch in with a couple of turns and then helicopter the wire away. I like a red tag as well personally, but I see that Luboš has done a series of flies for Fooling Mill, and he does include this in that series, so if it's good enough for a world champion, it's certainly good enough for me. Now I want to add my CDC collar, so I've got a CDC feather here. I'm going to grab it at the tip. Just as easy doing it with my fingernails. Looking for my hackle pliers would be a bit of a mission given the state of my bench. I'm going to take away the bottom part of the feather, and what I want to do is bring my clip in and catch that. Now I don't want it too long. You can see its whole feather. If I go right down to the stem, I'm going to have far too much. So I want to come up, give myself maybe 4 to 5 millimeters, and then I'm going to come in with my scissors. I'm trying to keep this on camera, but it is quite difficult. And then I've got that in my clip. Now while I've been doing that part, the good news is the nano silk will have been twisting to open up. So when I bring in my needle in behind the thread here, I'm able to split it, and 6/0 is fairly easy to split compared to something like a 12 or an 18. But once I've got that in place, I can bring in my clip and catch in that CDC. Now I'm just going to bring my thread up a bit on the bobbin. As you can see, I've kept pressure on it in order to make sure the CDC doesn't slip out of the thread. And then I'll just wrap that up so it's trapped in there nice and tight. And then I can come up. I'll start at my bead, and each time I turn I'm going to try and just ease some of that back until it is wrapped up. So there we go. That's looking pretty good. Now I want to force the CDC back over the body of the fly, and how I'm going to do that is adding a little bit of dubbing. Now the Spectra dubbing from Hens 45, I used to, when I had the tube, the dubbing was certainly different from what it is now. It's not quite the same, but I've not found anything quite like this that would replicate how it is. So I still use this. You don't need very much. I've taken a tiny bit out the packet, and I'm just going to wrap that onto the thread. Now if I lick my thumb and forefinger, damp it down, I can pull all them CDC fibres back, and then I'll get my dubbing on at the front of the hook. Now rather than coming afterwards to finish the fly off, I'm going to add a little bit of super glue to the thread, and then I can come with my whip finish tool and finish that off. Now fishing this fly, you can nymph with it. In smaller sizes probably you could fish it under a jewel, but certainly I would use it as a double nymph fly, maybe on the dropper or on the point, depending on the weight of the bead. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.